What up, super friends? For today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm making a video where I show you how to take apart a DC Universe Classics type of body, or even early wave of the DC multiverse. Because a lot of people ask me in my KITBASH videos, and also in my Instagram account, when they see some of my custom work, they're like, how did you do that? How did you take the body apart? Well, this video is going to be a very simple how-to video explaining how I take my figures apart. I don't consider myself to be a kit bashing pro. There are a lot of people who are far better than me. This is just how I do things, and I figure there are a lot of people who are just afraid to get into it because they don't want to mess up their figures and they want to know basics of how to do it. And so that's what this video is going to be about, to help you learn how to take apart a DC Universe Classics style body. Right, so the first thing you're going to need is boiling water. So I've got this fresh boiling water that I've just boiled. It's steaming hot, and you want to put that in your coffee mug. The reason why I say coffee mug is because it's got a handle and you can move it around and stuff like that. And then you want to take your figure, and for me, if I want to take the head and the fists off at once, I just plop him in just like that. And that way the head and the fists are both submerged in the boiling water. And what the water will do is it heats up the plastic and it makes it softer. Now, not all plastic will do this. The plastic up here on his upper leg is a different kind of plastic compared to what's down here on his lower leg. This plastic here will soften. This plastic here will not. They're completely different types of plastic. I'm going to put this down here to capture some of the drip so it doesn't get on my work surface. But what you want to do when you finish, when he's been in there long enough and you're sure the plastic is good and soft, so for me, I usually leave him in there about a minute, then the head itself should pop right off, just like that, and then the fists, and you can see that the plastic is really soft and malleable. So you just pull his fists right off, so now he doesn't have any fists, and everything is intact. So that's the first thing you got to do. The next thing is, if you want to take apart the limbs on this figure, so from the elbows and the shoulders, let's just do from here. So there you'll find that there are little pegs that go inside of his bicep. He's all slippery, but little pegs. Okay, let's pop him back in one more time just to make sure the plastic is good and softened. All right, so it's been long enough, and I'm sure this is nice and soft. So get your finger underneath his bicep there and just pop it right out. And you'll see there's a little peg that goes inside of his bicep. So we're going to take the other one off as well. And they come right off when you soften them. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cape off. And I guess it doesn't really matter what order you do these in. You can take the arm off and take the fists off after that, or whichever. You know, this is just what I do for each thing. So this cape here, this Superman's cape, has actually been glued to his shoulder. And previously, the DC Universe Classics, they haven't glued his cape to his shoulder. That one came right off though. And we're just going to pull this one here. Usually you won't have this problem of the cape being glued down, but it came right off. Some of that glue holds the rubber down, but for the most part, if you want to reuse this cape, I mean, there's no real damage to it. You can reuse this cape again, no problem. And now you're stuck with what's back here, and it kind of fits right into the back here. Now, sometimes you can luck out and the glue isn't that strong, and you can just kind of pull and it'll come right out. Other times it's not. And so what I'll do when it's like that, if I can't just pull it out, I'll grab a razor blade and I'll carefully cut along the line there, right along the side. So I'll pull the cape over to the side. It's all soft from being in the boiled water, and I'll just carefully cut as close as I can to his back like that, preserving it. So there's still a little bit of that piece sticking out that you can use again if you want to later. Okay, so now we've got the torso and the legs still. Let's say you want to take apart the legs here at the knee joints. You just pop him back in the boiling water. And while we're at it, I'm going to drop his arms in the boiling water as well, because we're going to take those apart at the elbow. Just going to top up the water here because I'm sure that it's been cooling down over the course of the video. If it gets too cold, you're just going to want to replace it altogether. So I'll usually go through an entire pot of boiled water if I have a lot to do. Like, if I'll usually go upstairs with a batch of like 2 or 3 or 4 figures, and I'll make sure I boil an entire pot that I can just keep dumping out the cooled stuff and filling up with the new still hot stuff from the insulated kettle. Okay, so Superman's probably been in there long enough so that his knees are, yeah, you can see that his knees are really, really soft and malleable, and that's what you want. Now for me, I've got this tool. I don't even know what it is. I mean, but I'm sure you can find like a, I don't know, a screwdriver or like a small Phillips or a Robbie, and you want to get in there, inside of that hinge, and you just want to push it apart. Just wedge it open like that, and there you go. And the other side just comes apart like that. So you end up with his leg and his shin, and you've got the hinge peg, which is important you don't lose. So that's number one, and we'll just do the same thing with Superman's leg here. We're just going to push it open with the tool, your screwdriver maybe, whatever you have. And again, you've got the peg, and it's right there. You're not going to lose that because you'll need that for later. And we're just going to do the same thing here with the arm joint. We're just going to take our tool, and we're going to stick it right in there like that. And you're just going to wedge it apart like so till it comes apart just like that. You just pull it out. Oh, and as you can see, this is why I mentioned this. This little peg wants to disappear. Just make sure you stick it right back in there so it doesn't get lost. Same thing for arm number two. We're just going to stick the tool in there again, pull it apart just like that, and now it's in pieces. Okay, so now we have just the torso and the upper legs, but there's still more we can take apart here. I will typically not touch the shoulders because they're just a pain in the butt. I've done it before for a Joker figure. I took it apart up here at the shoulders, but it is more of a pain in the butt to take it apart. It involves actually breaking the peg inside that goes through here and then re-super gluing it back together. So I'll leave those alone typically. I don't bother with taking them apart at the ab crunch. That's not something I've ever done. And I usually leave them alone here at the upper leg swivel here above the knee. I don't usually change them there either because that's also a pain in the butt and results in quite often a snapped peg in there. However, one of the things that people ask me about quite a lot is, how did you replace the legs? How did you change the legs? It's simple. I took the figure apart starting at the groin. And the first thing that I need to do that is a power drill. So you splay your figure out open like that, and then you've got their groin exposed. And you just want to take the drill and you want to put it right in the center, right where the seam is, right in the very, very middle, because you don't want to drill what's inside here. You just want to drill right in the center, and you're going to mess up the seam a little bit, but that's just kind of the name of the game here. That's one of the dangers. Now once you've got the hole drilled in Superman's groin or whichever character you're using, I take this tool. Now you can probably do the same thing with a really small screwdriver. You just want to stick it right in between there, and you want to just begin wedging it, carefully wedging it apart. And there you go. See, make sure you're careful not to crack anything. If you push too hard, you can crack things. But now the seam is broken, and you can see what's going on in there. And it shouldn't be that hard to get them apart. Now, depending on the character you're taking apart, Superman and Batman, they tend to be difficult because their groin fits right up inside of this belt, as you'll see. And so it's a bit of a pain in the butt. You'll find you have more luck if you take them apart and then you open the gap and then get the legs out first, like so. And that will give you a little bit more wiggle room. So here's the legs, and this is the reason why you don't want to use too big of a drill bit, because you don't want to wreck these pegs on the inside. You can see I nicked them just a little bit, but that's not going to ruin their overall usability in a figure. But now you've got to get this part out, and like I said, it's up inside the belt, and so you want to be careful so as not to destroy it, because if you rip it apart and you destroy it, then it's no longer useful. And believe me, I've messed up a few of these. Now I'm just going to show you an extreme technique, because sometimes these don't want to come apart easy at all. I've had quite a hard time with this one. So what I will do is I will take my X-Acto blade and I will go behind right here, and I will make an incision, and then I will push down carefully and cut the rubber all the way through. And I would usually do this on a flat surface, but I'm trying to do this in front of the camera for you, so I'm being extra careful. My fingers are all away from the blade, and I'm just going to push in right here in the middle, and I'm going to cut. There you go. So now there's that cut right there in the back of the belt. And the thing is, if you reuse the belt, no one sees that cut because it's in the very back. And then I'm just going to push down just carefully, and that should be enough that the belt can be separated. As you can see, the belt is now able to be separated, and you're just going to get it and pull it apart like that. So here's the belt. And that gives you a bit more wiggle room to take this figure apart from its peg. It should come apart really nicely. So the groin comes apart like so, and then you have the body. And the body, the peg in the middle, is actually a separate piece that goes in the body and in the groin all by itself. It's an independent piece that swivels in both of them. So just for an overview, if you want to take apart a DC Universe Classics action figure or one of the earlier wave multiverse figures, what you're basically going to need is a power drill. You're going to need some boiled water. You're also going to need a knife, a very, very sharp knife, and some sort of prying tool to get some of those body parts off. I mean, I imagine you could do some of the knees and the elbows just with your fingers if it's hot enough, but really you're going to need a prying tool at the very least for taking apart that groin right there. So yeah, this should be enough information to get you started on disassembling your first DC Universe Classic / earlier multiverse, you know, DC Unlimited, Batman Unlimited style figure. Heck, even the DC superheroes come apart all like this. This should be enough information to get you started, and you should be able to take one apart, no problemo. I do want to point out that the multiverse figures are different. The groin in these figures is different, and from the waist up, taking these apart is, I mean, yes, the boil and pop is probably fairly the same, but if you notice, there's no hinge pegs. And I haven't tried taking one of these apart at the knee. It's probably the same, but getting them back together might be a bit of a pain in the butt. And the waist pegs on the newer multiverse figures, at least on the Superman that I took apart, it's actually attached right to the groin here. The belt's a separate piece, but from the groin all the way up, the hinge peg is actually connected right in the middle. So when you take it apart, you end up snapping the peg in half. It's not like a DC Universe Classic where it's a separate piece in the middle like this one is. So yeah, I think I've pretty much said all I have to say about the basics of taking apart a DC Universe Classics figure, so thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, found it helpful or insightful at all, please leave a like on it so I know that you liked it. Anything to say in the comment section, anything at all, just leave it down there because I read absolutely every comment. And hey, you might have a slightly different way of doing things that you might feel is more effective than how I do it. You can leave that down in the comment section too, just be nice. I don't consider myself a pro kit basher whatsoever. I'm just a guy like you all who happens to have wasted money breaking figures, taking them apart in the past. I've probably wrecked like 4 or 5 figures taking them apart before I got really good at it, really effective at it. Also, if you think you might want to see more of this kind of content show up in your inbox, don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell so that you never miss a video. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day, super friends. Take care.